And we begin tonight with new details and insight about alleged gunman Nikolas Cruz, charged in the deadly school shooting in Parkland, Florida. Tonight, ABC News obtaining this new video of Cruz fighting another student at the school back in 2016. Police say Cruz confessed to the murders of 17 students and staff members at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. Sheriff Scott Israel, you see them there today visiting a 15-year-old, Anthony Borges, shot 5 times in the back. And tonight, the couple who took in Nikolas Cruz after the death of his mother breaking their silence, saying they had no idea a monster was living under their roof. ABC's Adrian Bankert leads us off in Parkland.
Tonight, new video of the alleged Florida school shooter surfaces, showing him in a fight with classmates. First obtained by WPLG, that's apparently him in the white shirt. The video comes to light as the family Cruz lived with says, "We had this monster living under our roof and we didn't know." Kimberly Sneed and her husband James tell the Sun Sentinel, "Everything everybody seems to know, we didn't know." Cruz pictured here at his mother's funeral. The alleged killer moved in with the Sneeds after her death. They say he followed every rule of their home to the T, but that he was battling depression and days before the shooting took him to a therapist. The day of the massacre, Kimberly Sneed says she left home to run errands. By the time she returned, Cruz was gone. The next and last time they saw him, he was in custody. They say he apologized. The Sneeds, gun owners themselves, say they allowed Cruz to keep a handful of weapons, including the AR-15 he owned, in a locked gun cabinet. They thought they had the only key. One classmate tells ABC News he ended any communication with Cruz as his behavior spiraled downward.
He started going after one of my friends and threatening her, and I cut off from there. He got suspended a lot of times, and he sold knives in his lunch boxes, and he was expelled, but no one expected him to come back next year.
Tonight, we know Cruz has now invoked his right to remain silent. He's being held in solitary confinement and remains on suicide watch.
There's no doubt in my mind that Nikolas Cruz shot many people, killed 17. The killer is in custody, and we'll move forward with the legal process.
All right, Adrian Bankert joins us live from Parkland, Florida. Adrian, I want to go back to that couple revealing so much about Cruz and also the moment they came face to face with him after the shooting.
Yes, that's right. It was really emotional, Tom. Kim says that she ran at Cruz, yelling at him. Her husband had to hold her back. The sheriff tells us today that the investigation could take 1 or 2 more days or several more weeks before it's complete. And here at the high school, Building 12, which is where the killings took place, remains a crime scene. Tom?
Adrian Bankert leading us off from Parkland. Adrian, thank you. And a programming note, tomorrow on Good Morning America, that family that took in Nikolas Cruz is speaking out in their first ever TV interview. That's tomorrow morning only on GMA.
The house where Cruz grew up. The neighborhood is called Pine Tree Estates.
He stuck out like a sore thumb, and people feared him.
Police were called to the Cruz home 39 times over 7 years for a variety of issues. Mentally ill person, child elderly abuse, domestic disturbance, and missing person.
His face looked very he's blank, you know. His eyes looked cold.
He allegedly pelted neighbors' cars with eggs, shot at rodents and chickens with a BB gun, scooped fish from a neighbor's pond, and set his dog on a neighbor's piglets.
All I remember thinking was, oh, that's the last kid I want to have a gun. You know, that was my honest thought was, well, why does he have a gun?
Just a few weeks ago, the FBI was told all about Nikolas Cruz, from his gun ownership to his desire to kill people to the potential of him conducting a school shooting. Perhaps if they'd looked, they would have discovered this footage taken by a former neighbor and said to show Cruz practicing taking shots in his yard last year. The potential killer that Cruz wasn't investigated, and the mass murderer he became caused terrible sorrow in Florida. The president is on his way there tonight to meet with people whose lives, he says, have been totally shattered. 17 students and staff members were killed at Stoneman Douglas High School, among them 14-year-old Alisa Al-Hadef, who was laid to rest today. Her mother has made a desperate plea.
President Trump, you said
The staff and students who survived the massacre did so by hiding in corners and cupboards. Cookery teacher Ashley Kurth had nearly 70 children in her classroom while the shooting went on in the corridor.
I'm a firm believer in the Second Amendment, and I have in-laws that hunt and stuff like that. And to me, I don't understand the need for anybody to ever own or have a semi-automatic or an automatic weapon with high magazines.
Outside school today, she was reunited with two of her pupils, Hannah, who survived the attack, and her sister, Caitlin. Even in their trauma, they are not as convinced as their teacher of the need for gun control.
He obtained the weapon legally, but if he hadn't got it legally, he still would have ended up getting it illegally. Criminals will do things that they need to be criminals.
Just because you put a ban on something is not going to stop people from getting it. They put a ban on alcohol a long time ago, and people were still drinking alcohol.
While the political debates thrown up by this tragedy are depressingly familiar, the question of why law enforcement didn't act on warnings it was given hangs over America's latest mass shooting.